Ranch Water.
Cheers.
Plug. And Meg McRee, welcome.
Cheers. Thank you. Great to be here.
So psyched to have you today.
Man, I'm so excited to be in California. Paso Robles. Is that how you pronounce it? Is that correct?
You know, I say Paso Robles. A friend of mine says Paso. It's your town today. You can say whatever you want.
Oh, I don't know about that. Nobody wants to give me the keys to the kingdom.
Last night, Troubadour.
Troubadour.
Let's hear about it. That's wild.
It was crazy. I've never been to LA before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was my first time.
Oh, wow.
And my first time playing in LA was at the Troubadour, which was a little intimidating. But definitely awesome. Like, we walked in and it's like you can just feel the history and feel everything that's gone down there. So many of my heroes and have played there, and Elton John did a 6-night residency. That's like his spot, you know, and I love Elton John, of course. And the security guy said Janis Joplin used to sleep upstairs.
Holy cow.
Which was where our green room though was.
Yeah?
We had like a single light bulb like hanging, and it was this like black painted walls green room, and we were like, we're gonna go crarazy.
Yeah,
if we don't get out of here.
Place?
Oh yeah, oh totally. No.
You can pull this mic back too. Chill, sit back, make yourself at home.
Perfect.
Move it wherever you want.
It's great. Yeah, I was gonna say, do I have to be?
No, you can pull. This whole
SM7.
thing really pulls. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
shit. Cool.
I've been to the Troubadour once to film the band that I had on Wednesday. It was in 2019. It's a cool spot.
Who's the
for
band?
Sure. Balin. Have you heard of them?
Yeah, I actually have.
Yeah, cool. So I filmed for them back in 2019. I just brought a camera to the venue and shot, and they liked it. And so we've kind of stayed in touch since. And
Amazing.
the three of them joined for a wild podcast on Wednesday. They had been on low sleep, and
Oh my gosh.
but that's like the tour life, right?
Me too, man.
Yeah.
Me too. This is our last day of a 14-day run.
Like 14 days in a row.
Well, 14 days on the road,
Okay.
but 14 days away from home.
Myself dabbling in like concert videography, a week for me is like a lot. So 14 days is a lot.
So we left, we flew to Denver, and then we flew from Denver to Salt Lake City, got a rental car, drove to Montana, then drove halfway after the show in Montana, went to Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, LA, and here. So it's been fun. It was sunny in Seattle and raining in LA.
You're seeing it all.
Yeah.
You're seeing this whole country. Would you say that you are built for touring? Do you like touring, being on the road, being tired?
I like it.
Yeah.
Anna called me, my guitar player. She called me a trucker today. I was like, she's like, I can drive. And I was like, no, I got it. Like, it's become a game to me, you know? It's like, how far can I get today? Like, I want to know how many miles I've driven over the last 2 weeks. But it's fun. I mean, we just listen to music, and it's like more relaxing in some ways than being back home. When I'm back home, I got to be 4 million different places every day. It's like on the road, you just got to be in one, you got to get to one place. You just got to get there.
When you're driving, you can't be doing anything else.
Nope.
But sit.
Listening to records and hanging out. And so I kind of love it.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to go home.
No, just stay out on the road. Be a rambling woman.
I might.
You've had quite the year, quite the last years, weeks. New album out here.
New album.
It's just me. I'm psyched.
Weeks is actually accurate.
Yeah.
It's been a crazy few weeks.
Holy moly. And I'm pumped too, because I just listen to every week religiously Discover Weekly Release Radar on Spotify.
Yeah.
And I forget what track. I think it was Mary Jane Chardonnay.
Oh yeah.
Pops up on Discover Weekly, and I go, do you ever listen to a song and you have to start over? Like, what is this? That was that song.
Amazing.
And I'm like, I got to find out.
I was going to ask you how you found it.
Yeah, I'm just sitting at home listening, and immediately I'm like, this is amazing. So you go to the whole album. Sometimes you just go, that's an okay track. But I'm like, I heard that, and I'm like, I know that this girl's got better stuff too. Like, the whole thing is amazing.
Thank you.
I didn't mean better. I meant
hey.
I meant this girl's got.
I hope it is.
So I found it, found you on Instagram. I'm like, you're coming to California in like 2 weeks.
That was perfect timing.
Yeah.
It was kind of crazy because I texted my manager and I was like, hey, I'm going to do this thing. And she's like, how did you like meet him? And I was like, dude, he heard the record and he just reached out. And I was like, that is the coolest thing ever. And I'm always interested how people find new music. Because as a new musician, you're like, it feels like there's a million bajillion people doing the same thing, and it's like you're on the internet and it's just constant like sensory overload. So it's like, how do people weed through that and find what they like anymore?
Yeah, that's true. And
Like-
Balin was saying there's like 100,000 new songs on Spotify a day or something like that. That's wild.
It's insane. And then you just hope you get on a playlist, and it's like it feels like, in some ways it's like a new style of, the music business, but it's also the same old, it's the same old shit. Can I say shit on the podcast?
No. Yes.
It's the same old shit. You have to like almost feels like you have to lobby for yourself or it's just like you're just kind of fighting to get to the surface. Well, but it's cool. It's so cool that Discover Weekly worked out like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I guess because I listen to
what do you listen to? Like I'm curious. Like what's your you're driving through this scenery I've been driving.
Well, I made a playlist. If you saw,
I did. I saw the Krong on there.
Yeah,
that is my stuff. That is my record. Like my artist of the year.
The Texas Sun.
I love that.
So
stuff.
Good.
But that band in general.
Yeah, there's not a single track that they put out that I didn't like.
No.
What do I listen to? There's a lot on there that I like a lot. So Krong. I was talking to a guy the other day. I'm like, I like a lot of like Red Dirt, Texas country.
Yeah.
Flatland Cavalry. You now.
Yeah, I'm good friends with those guys.
Really?
Flatland, yeah.
Amazing.
Cleto and Caitlin are good friends, and me and my boyfriend Ben, we're both musicians. So like Cleto and Caitlin are like further down the road than us, if you will. But Caitlin's on this tour, Caitlin Butts.
Oh, really?
She's on this tour too, so she's gonna be doing the Santa Barbara tomorrow.
Oh.
But I actually opened for her, and then like Ben opened for Flatland, and we opened for Flatland at Billy Bob's, Texas, in December.
Yeah, Caitlin was on that playlist too. So
amazing. Yeah.
So I would say, a lot of the things that you see on that, I can't remember it right now, but Red Dirt Country. I think I got over the last few years more into things that you wouldn't necessarily hear on mainstream country radio. Because it's become less and less country. But before we get all into that, for the people who don't yet know Meg McRee, can you give us a little background and what your particular style of country is too? Because I've heard a lot of people say a lot of different things.
I have too, man, and I'm still trying to figure that out. But my journey to music is kind of interesting. I'm originally a classical violinist. When I was a little kid, I heard "There's Your Trouble." Dixie Chicks. My mom had the CD, and I was like, damn, like what? I didn't say damn, I was 5. So in my little 5-year-old brain, I was like, oh. I said, Mom, what is that instrument? And she said, oh, Meg, that's a violin or whatever. Do you like it? And I was like, yeah, I want to learn how to play it. And she was like, that's kind of weird. So they got me, my grandparents for my birthday got me 5 lessons just to see you're a little kid. And then my family was never pushy, you're going to be doing, neither of my my parents are musical. My sister plays piano amazing and started around the same time I started violin. So both of my parents were kind of like, what is going on? Both of our kids are really interested. But my dad, his family, there's a lot of drummers and musicians on his side, and my mom's side, there's piano players and everything. So they were like, if you're interested, we want to make you go for it and encourage you. So I did that till I was 18. I was playing classical violin competitively and then in orchestras and everything. And then during that time I got interested in, I was always into anything music, and I would sing, and I was like, well, I think I can kind of sing, but I was violin, that was what I was doing. And got a guitar for Christmas when I was 15 and just kind of learned some chords on YouTube and was like, yo, it's fun to be able to sing and play. And I'd stay up and get lost in it and everything, and ended up going to Vanderbilt on an academic scholarship. So I was kind of like, oh, music is just a kind of a pipe dream for me. I love it. It's my outlet. It's my hobby. But oh, I should have started earlier. I thought when I was 18, I was too old to start to be a musician, a commercial musician. But because everything you see is Taylor Swift was 14 or 15, and it freaks you out. You're like, oh, well, I should have already been doing it. So I didn't have that on my radar at all when I moved to Nashville, but it was in the back of my mind. Vanderbilt's in Nashville. And when I was picking schools, I knew, well, Vanderbilt gave me a scholarship, so that was nice. But it was in Nashville, and I knew in the back of my mind that's kind of why I picked it. And I ended up graduating, and while I was there, I did all these unpaid internships. I didn't have a car, so I was walking from, if you've been to Nashville, it's you walking from West End to 16th Avenue, which is where Music Row is. That was quite a hike for a college kid, a couple days a week, not getting paid. But I was at a distribution. I had 6 or 7, and I just wanted to learn how it worked, and I wanted to be a manager or wanted to do web design. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I was like, I want to be around this. And I was interning for this publishing company my senior year, and there was like people coming in. I would type lyrics into the database. Like that was part of my job. I was intern, and I had this feeling one day that I was like, it was just like, it just wouldn't go away. I was like, I'm going to be so mad at myself if I don't go for this. Because I was writing songs and I was doing all that on my own and realizing, oh, that's like a job. Like you can write songs. And so that day I just kind of decided, I was like, well, I'm going to graduate and then see what happens. And I asked the guy I worked for, I was like, do you think my songs are any good? Like, can you be honest? And I hated as an intern doing that because it's so annoying. Like in Nashville, all the kids are like, I want to show you my music. And it's just, it can be a lot. So I waited till like the very end of the semester and then I asked him and he listened and I knew he would give me an honest answer because I knew him and it was like, he was very dry and funny, but like I knew if I was like, hey, he was close enough, like he was a good enough friend that he would tell me. He was like, yeah, I think you should go for it. And I was like, okay. So I just took that and ran with it, graduated and got a job serving tables like a week later. And I was nannying at the time too. So I was like, well, I can serve at night and then write, do sessions during the day and meet people. So I was playing around town and ended up meeting this crew of people that it's almost this like, I'm sure I'll talk about it a lot today, but it's almost this like new Laurel Canyon like thing going on. And we have this circle of artists and musicians in Nashville that we all hang out all the time. And like without them, it's like, it's really special. Like I don't think it happens that often from what I can observe. But ended up writing with those guys and artists, finding friends and signing a publishing deal. So I got to quit my serving job and I signed with this songwriter named Hillary Lindsay, who's like a massive hit songwriter, like one of my heroes. And she started a new company right around the time, you know, that I was coming up and it's a long story, but like right place, right time kind of thing happened and ended up getting to know Jake Gear, who's my publisher at the company and her and signed there. So it's been great. I've been there for 2 years and I didn't want to be an artist. I wanted to write songs and do session work, like write in sessions and get cuts and all that. And then I got a manager and she was like, no, you're an artist. And so she was like, her name is Mandolin. She instilled that in me. She's like, no, you need to make a record. And I think you should make it with this guy, Andrew Petroff, who you've been writing with. It seems like you guys have a cool creative thing going on. And I was just like, okay. And then I started making the record in January of last year, so January of 2022, and we finished in like September. And it was kind of a long process, working, you know, sometimes we'd be working 3 weeks at a time, then we'd have to take a month off because life or whatever, and then we'd go back to it. And it's been kind of a whirlwind. But we ended up making it and discovering this like new sound that kind of took a year, you know, just like I was like, this is what I'm hearing, and I think Andrew like helped pull that sound like from the songs that I was writing at the time, and I think we arrived at something really cool. I've been calling it like back porch psychedelic or like I don't know. I mean, it's country music, it's storytelling, but there's a lot of like rock and roll elements to it, and a lot of like, if you look at the inspiration playlist for the record, it's all over the map. It's like everything from Yeba to the Eagles to Waylon and Willie record to Grace Potter, Sherrell Crow kind of stuff. Bonnie Raitt. There's a lot of influences that the Grateful Dead, that's a big one that went into it. And so it was a journey, but it came out 2 weeks ago.
It's
and
amazing.
I'm so proud of it.
It's so fun. It's great.
Thank you.
Have you heard Groovy? I think it's Groovy.
Yeah, Groovy Country. Yes. Groovy Country. That's another one.
It's so good. I'm so stoked I came across it. Do you still play violin?
Yeah.
Really?
So I played fiddle for Haley Witters.
Oh, right on.
Like a couple summers ago. She had so her husband is actually my publisher, and he was like, she needs someone. And I was always kind of like, there's so many great fiddle players in Nashville. Like, I'm a violin player pretending to be a fiddle player, so I have to kind of fake it a little bit. But I filled in for some gigs on her. We toured with Midland, a little big town. It was my first experience touring, was at these huge amphitheaters, and
Wow.
I was playing rhythm guitar, doing harmonies, and playing fiddle. So I've done that. I've done like some sessions in town. I say it's like my most hard-earned party trick is the fiddle. Yeah. But I want to incorporate it some way because I played strings on, there's a song called Saying Goodbye, and I did like a whole string section for it on the record.
Wow.
And yeah, I want to figure out a way to incorporate it into the show. But
For someone who thought you'd just be doing songwriting, not performing, you've done a lot of performance.
I
That's
know.
amazing.
I know.
Yeah. I'm glad you did, by the way. So that's so cool, though. You think you're going to do, well, you go to school to do academic things, and then it switches gears, and then you just keep seeing where life goes. Like, at what point do you start following the path, taking people's advice, or, you know, you're following your own passion too, but when does it morph from I'm leaning more on this as a hobby, no, now I'm going to make a switch, and now I'm going to do something that I never saw from the very beginning anyway?
Man, I think it was interning and just seeing how everything worked and seeing people come in and write songs and seeing what their schedule and their life was like. I was like, wow, that sounds like an adventure. Like, I want to do that. That sounds awesome.
So what was it for you that then really made you aware that, you know, you can really perform and keep up with these acts that you're not only keep up, but now you're full on excelling? Was it those tours with Midland? What was it for you where you're like, now I'm passionate about performing for these audiences?
Honestly, like, it was just performing really scared me at first. And I like had to do a lot of work in terms like internal work of getting over some stage fright and some like getting comfortable on stage. And a lot of it has nothing to do with performing, and it has more to do with, like I was telling someone the other day, I was like, you just can't care. You just kind of got to get up there and feel good about what you're writing and feel good about what you're saying. And at the end of the day, it's like I could, you know, reps also help. Just getting reps in and playing and being like, okay, well, the world didn't set on fire when I missed that note or forgot that lyric, so like it's gonna be fine, you know. It's not that serious. It's supposed to be fun. But it did take me a while kind of to warm up to it. I wasn't like always the kid that was wanting to be in the spot. Like that really wasn't what I liked. But now I just love performing, and I love music, and I love songwriting. So for me, it's like more like sharing what I made. It's like a show and tell kind of situation. That's how I have to think about it, is like, here's what I made. Like, let me show you. Instead of like, look at me. That stresses me out.
Yeah.
3 months on the road, I can tell like I've already even from January improved in terms of like learning how to perform and be on the road and engage an audience and like deal with it when they talk through it. And it's just, yeah.
So through this journey of trying hard, practicing, performing, getting better all the time, can we talk about how that has led to you coming off a major tour, now on another major tour this year? I'm sure it's just been a blast, but Lainey Wilson, I mean, that's cool.
Dude, we, so Lainey and I have the same manager, and I was a huge Lainey Wilson fangirl as like a member of the Nashville community writing and everything. Like we would have these writers rounds around town, and I remember seeing her. She did this song called 2-Story House, and it just blew my mind. And that was probably in 2019. It was before COVID, and I was like, she is so cool, man. She just got it, whatever it is. So I just kind of admired her from afar, and I followed her on social media and everything. And one day I like get a message from her, and our publisher had sent my boyfriend Ben Chapman, who's also was on the Lainey tour. She sent his record, or our publisher, he sent so confusing, his record to Mandolin and Lainey, and they heard it. And we had written a lot of songs together, and we had a duet on there. And she was like, hey, I just wanted to reach out and like say I heard this, and I think it's so cool what you guys are doing. It's so different. And I freaked out because I was like, dude, she's so cool. That's amazing. And ended up, we met Mandolin, our manager, and she was the one, like I said earlier, that was like, no, you're an artist. So that was cool. But we've been friends for a couple of years now, and I feel like she's a big sister to me. So going out on the road with them, like we were out west in January, and I was on the bus. So we had like a girls bus and a guys bus. So Ben and his band were on the guys bus, and then we were on the girls bus, and it was so fun. Like every night, do your little face mask after the show, and it's like, now that I'm back in the car, not it's not like that at all. But I got spoiled back in January. But it's two very different and very cool experiences because I'm getting to see more of the West from the car
That's
than the
true.
bus.
You got to drive and yeah.
Oh, yeah. You got to navigate.
Yeah.
Got to do the LA traffic. Got to do all that.
You think the guys were doing the face masks at night too?
Oh, yeah. Oh, totally. Totally. They would have wanted to.
How validating that must be, though, to just be doing your thing, trying as hard as you can, and then you get a message. And it must feel so good that you're like, oh, I was doing it right. And that effort kind of pays off. And then you're on the road and you're like, I'm here because of those hours writing, those hours performing and practicing.
And you always feel like to a certain extent that you have imposter syndrome. You know, you're like, sometimes I was like, how did I get, we played at the Troubadour, we played at the Fillmore, and it's like, how the hell did I wind up here? It's like, it's a funny thought, but it is awesome. And I have put a lot of hours, you know, it's like, sometimes I tell the story and it sounds like I just kind of like, was like, oh, I might write songs. Like I was always really into it and under the surface, you know, maybe just afraid to share it. But yeah, once I hit the ground running, it was like playing rounds in Nashville and just kind of doing the hard grunt work, paying the dues, you know, waiting the tables and doing all that. And I'm so glad that I spent those years kind of performing in town, which it's always harder to play in Nashville than on the road. Because you just have the arm crossers, the judgers, you know. Everyone in the music industry is like, what's this going to be about? Because there's so much live music.
Are they sitting there because they're trying to like scout and sign?
Yeah, well, there's just like, even if they're other musicians, they're just judging. They're like wanting to see what's up, you know. Whereas like on the road, it's like everyone's like here to party or whatever.
Is that just like a thing about Nashville?
I think it's a music industry
Interesting.
thing.
Okay. Are there places or are there groups of people that are more supportive rather than like competitive?
I think the furthest away you are from the industry, the more fun the gig.
Okay.
Like, honestly.
Yeah.
Because you always think, you know, the big cities and everything are going to be like, it ends up being these like small towns you play that you're like, oh, that was the show. That, you know, that really worked.
Yeah.
But it's cool to see on the road after like writing songs in Nashville for like a year or whatever, or 3 years really, to see like how they're actually received outside of the context of like other songwriters hearing it. Because there's this thing called like a songwriter's song where you can get into like trying to write to impress the other musicians instead of connecting with the general public.
Okay.
And that's like a balance that you have to ride because, you know, maybe sometimes it's the same thing, but sometimes it's the same song that they love, but you can so easily get caught up in like, how can I outwrite that?
I was going to say, being around so many prolific songwriters, you're probably always like honing your craft, sharpening your tool. And then when you go out, it's like, you've got it for sure. Yeah.
And you got to collect your experiences to bring back home. It's like your souvenirs, your ideas, and you have to recharge because it's like, you have to come up with new song ideas every day. And by sometimes you just get to a point where you're like, I don't have anything left to say. So you got to go out and experience life and come back and have something to write about.
That's got to be hard.
It is.
I mean, in high school, when I'm trying to write an essay and I've got writer's block, but then you have to do it as a job. Like,
oh, yeah.
That's got to be hard and daunting. And
you just have to.
Little Mary Jane and Chardonnay.
Oh, yeah. That's what you got to have. Sometimes that helps. But it is like a muscle. Like, I think you can become a better songwriter and be able to go to that place easier the more you do it. It's like it's a skill that if you haven't done it in a while, sometimes you do it better than you ever did because you get rid of, you know, have your, like, you know, when you play sports, something like I grew up playing tennis. But it's like if I took a few months off playing tennis and then I went back and like I would lose all my bad habits. So that first day back, I'd be like, oh man, feeling good. Sometimes songwriting is like that, you know. Take a break and then it's like you come back and you're excited about it again. But yeah, sometimes like you take a big break and you write 4 great songs the next week because you've had to stockpile ideas and experiences and I'm constantly writing stuff down in my phone and like constantly writing phrases or ideas or like humming melodies and always.
I'm a filmmaker and I do that with video ideas.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing. I was just talking on Sunday with a photographer out in Lake Tahoe and I was like, do we ever stop looking around us at like things to photograph, things to make videos about? Is that the same for you with songwriting? Are you always just thinking in song mode?
Yes. it's kind of hard because you can never turn it off. But it's also like a gift because it romanticizes helps you romanticize everyday things, which makes life more fun.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That was poetic right there.
Yeah. You just you think.
Sitting in a white van right now.
Exactly. You get to romanticize your life and, it's your job to take a tiny thing or a conversation you had maybe and be like, I'm going to run away with that creatively and create this whole other story or some idea. Like you'll meet a person and sometimes you meet people at the merch table and they'll tell you some story about, I just broke up with my boyfriend and this is what happened. And they'll, they've had a few drinks and they'll spill it out to you. And you're like, well, there's a few songs in there if I embellish this story a little bit, but it just kind of jogs your memory and it jogs that part of your brain that wants to tell a story or make it up.
I like
which
that.
Is fun.
Yeah. You're coming in hijacking Taylor Swift style on other people's breakups.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The thing about imposter syndrome is interesting because I talk to not just musicians here on the Vancast, but so many people who are so good at what they do, whether that's a comedian, a photographer, a singer-songwriter. I think that thing about imposter syndrome, I think it means that you're never really satisfied, whether that makes you like a perfectionist or something like that. But I think that's what makes you good at what you do. If you do have that kind of mindset of, I shouldn't be here. I mean, do you find that you can take the time to pat yourself on the back a little bit? Because, I mean, you definitely should. But, at the same time, I think that mindset is what's led you to be where you are, too.
Yeah, I mean, I always talk about my publisher, Hillary Lindsay. She's like I said, hit songwriter, has a ton of songs you would know that she's been a part of, and is just, by all means, everyone would look at her and say she's extremely successful at what she does, and she's never satisfied. She's always like, I don't know if I'll ever have a hit again. It's like, she will from the outside, but it's also that attitude, I think, has been what has made her so successful. She's hungry and she's constantly trying to prove herself. And I think if you get to a place and you feel entitled to be there, you feel it's one thing to be I have earned, I've worked and it makes sense why I'm here, I followed these steps or whatever, but it's another thing to kind of be in a situation, look down on it or say I deserve this, I deserve that. There's no fairness in this business. There are people that are way better than me that aren't on tour right now. There are people that, you know what I mean? There's people that I would say I could outplay them, but they're on bigger tours or they're on the stadium tour or whatever. But it's there's always going to be this comparison. There's always going to be the kind of looking at, where everyone is. And it's if you're humble enough to say I can't believe I'm here, you enjoy it enough. For me, it's I just can't believe I get to do what I love every day. And it's I can't believe I just get to get in a car on Friday and drive down the PCH and have the windows down and be with one of my best friends and we're going to go play music in California tonight. It's those are the times where I feel gratitude and I feel proud, but I also feel more gratitude about it. I think it's cool, that these things have led to me being able to live my dream. But I don't know, I'm just grateful every day. I love it. I love what I do. And I do it all the time, so I better.
Well, I think it's the mindset that has allowed you to get there. It's that feeling of, or rather the lack of feeling of entitlement, where you're not feeling owed something, but recognizing that when you put in hard work, good things happen.
Yeah.
Someone told me Nick, you throw a lot of spaghetti at the wall and sometimes it just sticks. I'm like, yeah, you just got to.
I threw a ton of spaghetti.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. There's so many times that I've applied for jobs and then you finally get one, but you wouldn't have got that one if you applied for just the one,
Right.
So.
It's like that with songs too. You just write, you just keep writing. Someone said, writing songs is taking a handful of seeds and throwing them into the field. And, that's in the context of the songs getting cut or recorded by other artists. That's half of kind of what I do. So I'm writing my own. Now my focus right now is definitely more on my artist career because I put out a record and I'm touring and going to play more shows this year than I ever have. But when I go home, I love writing songs for other artists and being a part of that process. And you just got to write a million of them and hope that, you know, maybe if you for every 100, 3 get cut or 3, you know, then you're doing good.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's right now it's the shaking hands, kissing baby tour. And then you go back to the drawing board. But take a moment. I think I hope you do, because it's phenomenal what you're doing.
Thank you.
Can we talk a little bit about, you mentioned Ben Chapman.
Yes.
And how that works into, does that work into, do you all write songs together? He's very talented as well. I don't know, like, how does that factor in? I know so much country music, you know, is about love and things. So, I mean, how do you write like a heartbreak song when you're in a good relationship, or do you just not?
Man, I think you just have to draw on like other ones. Like you have to draw on like, there's certain experiences you have that are just kind of a well, and you're like, okay, well, if I'm writing that, this was a time I felt that way. I kind of have to go back there, which can be hard. But it's also nice because it feels like there was a purpose for that hard time or that heartbreak. Is like, oh wow, that I'm still able to, you know, for lack of a better word, monetize this. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you have to.
It's great.
Why not?
But yeah, Ben and I, we are actually signed to the same publisher. So we got started, like we were friends and we wrote together, and that's how our friendship started. And then we ended up starting dating, and I was like, oh my gosh, we're dating. Like, are we gonna still be able to collaborate? Because there's this other kind of like, you know, you're always wondering. It's like working with your significant other can be really hard, but we write together all the time, and we write with other artists, like 4 other artists, and we've had success like getting songs recorded by other artists when we've written together. So I think we both do like a very different thing, but it's complementary. So like Ben, basically over COVID, he's a great guitar player, and I was like, I need you to show me like how to do this, this, and this, and this. And I feel like I improved tenfold. And then he's like, oh, I want to like get better at writing melodies or whatever. And it's like, we kind of feed off of each other in that way. And I play in his band, and like he'll play with me, and we've just done so many hours of gigs together, so many. But he's out on the road right now. He was with Lainey still, finishing that tour. And he played at Kane's Ballroom last night in Tulsa, which is like a legendary spot, especially in the red dirt world. And I was at the Troubadour, so it was kind of a cool night. It's like we were both kind of doing some bucket list things, and called, and it's like, how was sound check? I was like, it's great. Like, how's this? Oh, I'm going to send you a picture of the venue. It's so sick. And it's hard, like, being apart. We were on tour for the first 2 months of the year together. But it's been fun. It's cool to, like, he is so encouraging of, like, my artist career, and I just, like, want him to kill it. And we're kind of in the same circle, so it's a lot of fun. We get to spend a lot of time together, but also do our own thing.
That's cool. He's talented.
Yeah, he is.
Has he written on this with you too? On this?
Yeah.
record?
So Ben wrote. The two of us wrote "Close as I Want" together. We wrote "Saying Goodbye." We wrote "A Lot to Say." Am I missing one? No, I think that's it.
So if you're gonna write something with Ben,
yeah,
do you have an idea coming in? Does he have an idea coming in, and you kind of marry those together? How does it work for you?
For us two, like a lot of times, for a while, I love lyric ideas, so I'll come in with a lyric idea. But lately, I've been in a melody phase. I've just been loving like the feeling of a song. You know, it's just talking about Krong band. It makes you feel a certain way. I have no idea what they're saying, but it makes you feel a certain way. Of the time. And it's like they don't even have to say anything. So I think I've been into that. But so like a lot of times, it's either I'll have a lyric idea or he has a guitar kind of lick or idea, and he's like, he'll be playing something. I'm like, wait, record that. Like, that's so cool. So that's a complimentary thing, like a way that we work together is like, I love words and he loves arranging, and like he can just sit down and be like, okay, this is what the verse is going to be, and then the chorus is going to be over these, and then it makes it easier for me, and we'll start singing, and but it's different every time.
Yeah.
And if we have another person in the room too, if we're writing with another artist, like that's different too. But a lot of times, like Ben will take on the musical arrangement role kind of thing and rock it. And so I've learned so much from him just musically, because he's played in bands for a lot longer than I have. Like he was playing like VFWs and bands full of old men when he was 15.
Wow.
And like I was in orchestra, so I didn't really know how like a bass drums guitar band worked or like ran practice. So I feel like I learned from him like going to band practice, like, okay, how do you run a practice? How do you, work through a song? Like, there's a lot of things that like you just have to kind of trial by fire learn. And so I've gotten to watch how he does that, and I think he's watched how I do different things and write and everything, and he's learned from it too. So it's cool.
You both bring something different to the table.
Totally.
It makes something amazing.
Totally.
I love that.
Yeah.
And y'all were out on the Lainey Wilson tour together at one point, right? I think I listened to a podcast where I think she joined at the end or something.
So we were out in January and February, West Coast January, and then East Coast in February.
Okay.
So we were out on that. I was first of 3, and then his band would come out and play my last song with me, and then I would scoot over one mic and play rhythm guitar and sing harmonies with them.
That's so fun.
So it's so much fun, and like they're like, those guys are like my family, and we joke, we say like my band and Ben's band are like the cousins are coming, like they're all friends, and so it's really cool, and like I hope that we all get to tour together soon.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of fun. That's the point. It's like if you're gonna play music, it better be fun, and it better be with people who make you laugh.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way to get down the road.
Yeah.
Is to be laughing. Because there's gonna be, they had a flat tire last night at Cane's. Like, oh, we played this great sold out show at Cane's. Like, oh, we have a nail in the tire. And then it started pouring raining, so they were trying to change the tire, and it was pouring. And then it's like this morning, gotta do it again, and like touring is just, I did my makeup in traffic today. So it's like touring is just winging it and laughing about it and knowing that like you might stink and you might, be wanting to kill somebody in the car with you, but you just have to have a sense of humor. And I think that I've also learned that from him in that band.
And hopefully you're touring and traveling with people that can laugh along with you and make those flat tire moments a little bit better.
Yeah, yeah. Anna, my guitar player, it's been us two on this tour with Morgan, and we have just laughed our asses off. We've had the most fun time. There's just been crazy, if you're out west and you're driving out west for 2 weeks, crazy shit's gonna happen. And luckily we've minimized that. We have all the crazy stuff that's happened has been more funny than really crazy. Like, luckily, knock on wood, no car troubles. Yeah. Rented a car. Got a great 2023 Ford Edge. The big screen. I'm not used to it. But we have just had a blast. And people want to help us. It's 2 girls, and we're lugging all this stuff, and we're going to the airport, and like we found that people want to help. And like all our Uber drivers, like for a while before we got our rental car, we were Ubering with literally like, I have a picture of all of our luggage around us, and it's like 2 of us it was a comedy show, us getting our bags to like check them. But people were like, let me help you get your bags. So we can, they were cool.
Yeah.
But it's been great.
You've talked a little bit about, having fun with Anna and stuff. What's it been like actually performing right before another massive artist, Morgan Wade, which we're parked next to her bus, right?
Yes.
So if people hear the rumbling, we're parked next to Morgan Wade's bus. So that's cool.
Yeah, it's great. Dude, I had not met Morgan before I came on this tour, and I booked this tour back in like September. It was during Americana Fest, so it was a long time ago. So I've been looking forward to it and just like getting hyped up for it for a long time, and got to meet her the first show, and dude, she was just so cool and so kind, and her band and crew have just been so welcoming, and we're really sad that we're leaving. Like tonight, they were like, we're gonna hang out and like have drinks after the show. Like, touring is hard work, and you're away from home, and it's great when it's people that want to hang and like have fun and make the most of it. And her crew has been totally that, and she's been nothing but cool. And I've been calling my manager, I'm like, they just couldn't have had a better experience. And I feel lucky in that sense of like having so many female artists, role models kind of in my life now that are all doing kind of like different things. So I have like, Haley, who I played in her band, and she's a dear friend of mine, and I look up to her so much, and Lainey, obviously, and Morgan, and I'm good friends with the Pistol Annies, Ashley and Angelina, back in Nashville, and they're like my fairy god sisters is what I call them. And my best friend, Harper, is a musician, Harper O'Neill. You need to check her out. I just feel like there's this sort of reputation maybe of like in country music in Nashville, female artists being like hard to connect with for, there's this competition. It feels like there's a limited number of spots. But with the people I've met and the people I've interacted with, like I wrote some songs for Kaylee Hammock. We wrote a song on Kaylee Hammock's next record, and Elle King, and I got to work with Grace Potter and all the women that I've encountered. My publisher is female, my manager, my booking agent. And it's all because, like, it's not on purpose. It's just all because they were, like, the best people for the job. And it was because, my best friend, like, it's just been really cool to see the community of like, female artists being so supportive and, like, lifting each other up. And that's all I've experienced. And it inspires me because I want to be that to, the next generation or whatever. Like, I never want it to be like this scary thing that it sometimes can be. Or it's like, oh, I don't like I've just never been around anyone like that. And I'm thankful for it.
That's good. I think you associate with the right people. I think that's what you get back. They're going to surround themselves with you. And I mean, you throw out all these successful people, well-known names, and they're in a Vancast somewhere saying, hey, I wrote with this girl Meg McRee. She's amazing. So that's going on. So include yourself in that list as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's been neat. I've learned so much from all of them, and it's fun to write guy songs too. I love, I have like a song coming out next Friday called Boy and a Bird Dog. This artist Colby Acuff, like he's like a Americana kind of cool. He's from Idaho, so he's from the mountains, and it's just like I write something on the whole other end of the spectrum, and then I get to like work that out and like play a different character. So that's fun about songwriting.
Did you perform on that? You wrote it? It's coming out.
Wrote it.
Friday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ben and I wrote it with him on Ben's back porch. So that's where a lot of the songs
forward to that.
happen. Yeah.
Nothing more country than that.
Yeah.
It's legit. Nobody. I mean, you literally write songs on a back porch. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if Green Day's doing that or anything. Maybe.
No, it's the porch. It's like the sacred porch.
Yeah.
It's Ben's house, and we've written a lot of songs. We wrote some songs with Paul Cawthon on that porch that he's putting on his next record.
He's
I don't know
cool.
if you're familiar with him.
He's on the playlist.
Yeah, man.
Country as something.
Yep. He's a good friend, and we wrote on the porch with him a few songs. It's funny. We heard the recordings, and we're like, I cannot believe it went from there to like that. That's the journey of song. It's exciting.
When I listen to him, it's like, it's a vibe. I don't know. I don't talk like, I don't say it's a vibe or whatever, but like.
It is a vibe.
It's like, I don't know, his voice and the deep bass beats. I don't know. It's great. It's really cool.
No one else is doing it.
No.
Yeah.
So what I usually ask people is, if people are asking you, well, how do I do this? What do I do to get to where you're at performing in front of, tonight at Barrel House here in Paso Robles, they said it's going to be like the biggest show they've ever had here.
Oh, really?
So that's cool.
What's the capacity here, I wonder?
I don't know. I've been here one time for Jesse Daniel, if you know who he is.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he's from my hometown. We went to high school.
Okay, yeah, he's from California.
Yeah.
I don't know him personally, but I love his music, so I'm a fan.
From California, from a mile down the street from me.
So are you from, like, what's the town you're from, technically?
It's called Ben Lomond.
Is it?
It's very small.
Where is it in reference to, like, Bakersfield?
Oh, a couple, like 4 hours north.
Oh, okay, so not even close.
If you've heard of Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
in Santa Cruz.
Amazing.
In the Redwoods, so Santa Cruz, yeah.
I've always wanted to see that.
Yeah, come out.
I haven't seen it.
There's some cool places to perform in Santa Cruz for sure. So, yeah.
I've heard that. I've heard San Diego's city I need to hit next.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. But if people are asking you, how do I do what you're doing? Because the way I think about it, for me, I'm not a musician, so I always get nervous asking music questions because, again, I can't read music, I don't perform music. But I'm going to get on that mandolin. I will.
Come on. You don't have to read music.
All right. But I run also. And I think about how, I can... You run?
I'm a runner too, yeah.
Right on. I think I heard you mention that in the podcast. I'm like, right on, running. And, I could run 26 miles. I could. But I'm not going to be running 26 miles as fast as an Olympic marathoner.
Right.
A lot of people play guitar, but they're not, performing in front of a sold-out show at Barrel House tonight. So how do you take it to the next level? How do you tell people this is how you take your artistry to the next level in order to achieve all that you have the capacity to achieve?
Man, that's a great question. I think you just have to believe that, and then this is going to sound so corny, and I'll give a more a more approachable kind of like list of advice after this. But I think first and foremost, you have to believe you have something unique to share. Like, I think whether you're doing a podcast or you're making a video or movie, you have to believe that, like, your perspective is worth listening to, or that it's bringing something new to the table. And you have to believe that. And after, you know, but prior to that belief, you have to work on, like, narrowing what you want to do, what you want to say down. And it's always going to change. But, like, I think when I started believing that I had something worthwhile to say, like, I think something changed in my life and my career. And I didn't believe that for a long time. And once I started to, that was when I can think back on the most marked change in my life. But on a practical sense, like, you just have to do that thing every day. Like, you just have to do it and, like, mess up and suck. And, like, for music, you have to write bad songs and, I can't believe I wrote that. And, like, I saw this documentary, it's like Ed Sheeran songwriting documentary, and he was like, it's like running a faucet that hasn't been run in a long time. Like, you have to keep running it and get all the dirty water out before you can get the clean water. So you have to turn that faucet on and write the bad songs and, like, write all your bad ideas and, like, kind of gain enough experience to where you are like, okay, well, I've written everything that's cliche, or I've done that, and now I'm in it, and I want to, you know, I've already written that idea, I've already written that, and that forces you to be creative. So the more you do it, the more you're like, I'm gonna get bored with writing about the same thing if I don't figure out a new melody or a new way to do it, or a new vibe, or a new, you know, kind of chord progression, a new sound. So you just have to do it every day. You have to put in hours, and, like, put in hours when no one can see, and write songs that no one will ever hear. And you have to be okay with that, and, like, be okay with failure. Ultimately is, like, that's what I've, you know, one of the biggest lessons I've learned is, like, if it doesn't work, like, literally no one cares enough to, like, blacklist you from anything. Like, oh, what if you play a song and it doesn't go over well, you know, it's okay. Like, just write another song.
That's big.
Like, it's not that serious. You just can't be so precious about it either. So it's just like the reps for me. It was at a point when, you know, when I first started writing songs, I'd fixate on one song for, like, a whole month. I gotta finish this song. I can't get it right. But it's like, I should have just written it and gotten over with. And if I, you know, go back to it and say, well, this is a good idea, like, I might rewrite that, then you can rewrite it later. But, like, just finish it and get it off your desk, like your mental desk. We all have those kind of, like, we all have our tabs running. Just close the tab and move on.
I like that.
That's how I've, but that's, like, a creative, you know, from, like, a career perspective, I would say, like, you just have to show up, you know, from a creative side, like, keep doing it at home and, like, by yourself, and do it because you love it. But for me, it's been, like, getting out there and showing my face and meeting people and being social in a lot of ways, like, hang in. And that's how you get song ideas, is, like, man, I feel like for about 3 years in Nashville, I was at a bar probably every night. It wasn't that I was drinking every night. It's that I was out watching music, or out, you know, with seeing friends play and just showing up. You have to be present to win. And I think a lot of people, it's easy to say, like, well, I could have been, you know, this if I would have only done it, but I just, you know, so you just got to do it. You got to get out there and show your face. And it's a social career. You have to talk to fans, and you have to get used to, like, talking to, you know, you have to be able to do interviews. I'm sure, like, I'll look back on this in 5 years and be like, oh, I want to do it again because I am better at interviews now, you know. But I don't even know where I'm going with that, other than, number one, you can't care what other people think. Number two, you have to do, you know, just do the thing even when it's cringy. Just write the song, finish it, get it off your desk, your mental desk. And then 3 is just be open to, like, meet and learn from other people. And it's like, for example, when I was on tour with Lainey, it's like I'm watching her. She's so animated when she performs. You know, she's like, I want to put a Fitbit on that girl and see how many steps she has taken, and see how, like, she's probably run 6 miles during an 1.5-hour set. And it's amazing. So I learned that from her. Like, I was watching her, and I'm like, man, that makes me want to be a better performer. Makes me want to, like, learn how, you know, how is she doing that? How is she grabbing the crowd? And then she, like, go on tour with Morgan. You hear people singing every lyric of the song back to her and just feeling it. And you hear, you know, in her VIP, I'm setting up my merch while she does VIP, and people are telling her about how this song connected with them. Like, it's so cool. And, like, seeing both sides of that, you know, two very different and equally important artists, you know, just learning from them, being open to being like, man, that person knows something I don't. They've been doing it longer, and like, what is it that like I can learn from them?
There's so much wisdom in there. Believe in yourself.
Yeah, believe in yourself.
There's so much. I got to go back and listen to all that. Like, believe in yourself. Keep practicing, doing things over and over again.
Yes, always.
And not taking. I mean, criticism is one thing. Like constructive feedback is good.
Yes.
I was talking to a guy actually outside the club. I think he was a club promoter or something when I interviewed Balin the other night. He goes, "Oh, you're the van guy. What's the podcast called?" I'm like, "Oh, it's called Nick's Vancast." He goes, "Oh, I thought it would be called something different." I'm like, "Well, that's not very constructive."
Yeah, what?
I'm like, that's a wild thing to say.
Oh.
But again, I gotta have thick skin here in the podcast game.
You have to have thick skin in it all, man. I've had some crazy, like comments that you're just like, whoa. Like one guy in California was like, "Man, I loved you, but I liked when you were singing background vocals better." And you're just like, I just look at him and I was like, thanks.
Thank you.
Some things you just had to, let him roll right off your back.
Right, yeah, because I'm not going to convince that guy that Nick's Vancast is a good name.
Yeah.
He didn't like it. My friend Max came up with it, and it was before episode.
I love
one.
it.
I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. I was like, maybe I should make it the Vancast and make it a little bit more marketable, but whatever.
No, I love it.
Thank you.
I liked. No, it helped me remember it. It helped me separate it out.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I don't want to go recreating all these graphics and stuff, so I guess it wouldn't be that hard.
It's amazing.
But shoot, can we show your merch? This is a great shirt.
Oh.
Before you go.
Yeah.
This is sick. Can you
Thank
tell
you.
us how this came to be?
Oh man, I did this so these glasses were in the picture were Ben's grandmother's glasses from her house. She's like, "You want these?" And I was like, "Man, those are cool." And so I wore that those glasses for the photo shoot. And then me and my manager, we were just sitting she was by her computer. She's like, "We need to make you a shirt." And she opened up Photoshop and I was like, "Move that there and put that there." And then we put it in and got it made.
It's a great shirt.
Thank you.
It's great merch.
It's funny because a lot of dudes are like, "Do you think I can get away with wearing this?" Like, it's just, yeah, I think you can. Like, it's going to look amazing. It's going to look so cool.
I'm wearing it tonight at the show.
Thank
that
you.
May be,
Do
that
it.
Dorky, not talking about the shirt, but to wear the shirt of the artist that you're going to see.
No.
Because I would never wear a race shirt to a running race of the race the shirt is about.
I see what you're saying, but as a musician, I like it.
Okay, I'll be out there rocking this.
As an artist, I'm with it. I think it's cool.
Yeah, cool.
I think
I'll
it's
be out
awesome.
there.
So her Morgan's bass player Johnny, he wore one the other night at the Fillmore.
Oh, right on
stage. It was awesome, and I was like, "Oh."
You were just in San Francisco, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Fillmore.
you went south, and then you're back north again. You're all over.
I'm going back to LA tomorrow to fly back.
Holy cow. Well, I can't wait till you come out west again, or I'm going to find you where you are and see you some more, because what you're doing is amazing. The new album, is it Just Me? For those who haven't listened to it yet, I say yet, and they should.
Yes.
What's the first track they should listen to? The first one, and then just listen to the whole thing?
I think listen to it in order.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all about albums in order.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again for coming on Nick's Vancast.
Cheers.
Ranch Water. Meg McRee. Keep crushing it out there.
Thank you so much for having me and for finding the music and reaching out. That was one of the moments you were saying like, "Oh man, it's so cool when someone just slides into your DMs and says a nice thing." Like, thank you. That was so validating for me, and I really appreciate it. And I love that you found it in such an organic way.
Yeah, absolutely. I listen to music all day long, and I'm not reaching out to every artist that I listen to, but I'm like, this is unique. I like this a lot.
Thank you.
I need to find where she's playing and go see her live. Even if you weren't coming on the Vancast, I had to go see you live.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
Tonight's going to be awesome.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Cheers. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, thank you, Meg, and we'll see you out on the road.
Absolutely. We'll see you next time.
Feel like I'm at the tippy top of my game, looking down at the raft. Confidence.